Hi guys, Shawn here from digiDirect. Today we're going to be talking about the Leica T. Now the Leica T is not a brand new camera. It's been out for a couple of years, but they've released a new lens recently, the 35mm 1.4, and since it's come out they've released a couple of other lenses. They've also improved the firmware quite a bit since its initial release, enough that I thought it would be worth revisiting here and touching on. So for those of you who don't know Leica, Leica is one of the oldest camera manufacturers in the world. They're a German company, and they're known for their quality of their cameras. Just a super high bar for quality for all Leica cameras, and the Leica T is no exception. The Leica T is actually very interesting in how it's put together. Rather than having an internal chassis with electronics on top and then a body sleeve like most cameras, the Leica T is actually a 1.2 kilogram block of aluminum that is cut down into the shape of the camera. So it's one solid hunk of metal. So that makes it very sturdy. You can see it's just a very striking looking camera. So it's a very clean, very polished design, very simple. There's not a lot of physical controls on the camera, and that's because most of it is operated via the touchscreen on the back, which we'll touch on in just a sec. So the Leica T is an aps-c size sensor mirrorless camera. It uses its own T mount, which currently has a 5-lens lineup. So the Leica T also shoots at 5 frames per second, has Wi-Fi, and interestingly, it has built-in 16 gigabytes of internal memory. So you don't even need to use an SD card with the Leica T if you don't want to, although it does have an SD card slot if you so desire. But I mentioned the lack of physical controls on the camera, so really indeed we only see an on-off switch, a movie record button, and 2 control dials. So if you're in manual mode, those will control shutter speed and aperture. Depending on the other modes that you're in, they'll control other features, but you can definitely change those what those dials will control as well. But all of that is going to be accessed via the large touchscreen at the back. So the menu, all your settings and so on is going to be via touchscreen. And that's a little bit atypical for most cameras, but it's actually really, really well implemented. They've got a lot of smart menu choices. All the buttons and cursors are large, easy to press. It's not confusing at all. It's easy to use. They even have a very cool way to trigger playback, which is just a swipe down from the top. Then you can swipe across, pinch in on photos just like you would on a smartphone. So they're very intuitive controls and easy to use. If you want, you can even disable the touchscreen by swiping down on the right side, and then you have a regular screen in case you didn't want to be accidentally touching something and so on. But really, probably the best implementation of a touchscreen that we've seen on any camera. Now that's something that's also seen a lot of improvements from those firmware updates that I mentioned. The firmware that has come out since the camera was first released has made this touchscreen interface a lot more responsive, a lot faster, a lot easier to use. So significant updates from when the camera first came out. The firmware updates have also improved autofocus, improved Wi-Fi, so a lot of improvements simply from firmware since from when the camera first came out, which is why I wanted to talk about it today. But overall, the control system is very easy to use, very simplistic, and really kind of just gets out of the way. That means you can operate the camera without thinking too hard about it. There's not 50 different buttons to press. It's very straightforward and easy to use. Lets you focus on just taking the photo and not getting bogged down in menus and how you're going to operate it and so on. It's a very, very good design. Now the other reason I wanted to touch on this camera is because of this new lens, a 35mm f1.4 lens. Now I mentioned the Leica T is a crop sensor, aps-c size sensor, so that means it's going to be equivalent to about a 50mm lens on a full frame camera, so it's about what you see with your eye. So a very good normal lens. That's a very popular focal length, obviously. It's a nice sharp lens. Leica is renowned for their optical quality, and this lens is certainly no slouch. Very sharp lens, very fast lens, great for low light. Stylistically, it looks very similar to the camera body, so it gives it a very clean look again, which is kind of the point that I keep coming back to when talking about the design of the camera. But a really, really excellent quality lens. If you have the T or if you're thinking of getting one, this is a lens I would certainly recommend with it. Of course, I mentioned there are a couple other lenses you can also get. There's a couple zooms, and there's also another prime. So a good amount of lens options for what is really a new camera system. So that's the Leica T, just what we come to expect from Leica in just terms of the quality of design, the craftsmanship, the style, the optical quality, just all at a very, very high level in the Leica T. You know, the touchscreen design and menu design all, again, like I said, go a long way to getting out of the way, letting you just be able to shoot easily and not get lost in menus, not get lost with 50 different buttons and so on. Just a very streamlined camera. And with these new lens releases and these firmware updates, definitely worth a revisit. If you were considering a Leica T in the past but just never pulled the trigger on it, I would give it a closer look now, because they've, like I said, they've made a lot of improvements on new lenses and so on. That definitely, I think, would make it worth your while to check out. So if you'd like to try the Leica T, come into one of our stores. I should mention that our Sydney store actually has a Leica boutique, so a very wide range of Leica selections, specifically in our Sydney store, but our other stores also certainly have Leica as well. We've got stores in Bondi Junction, Miranda, Melbourne CBD, and the Brisbane CBD. You can also get the Leica T or any of its other related lenses on our website at www.digidirect.com.au. Take care.